party steps into a damp dungeon. Boots echo. It's clearly their first run. The armor guy takes the lead, talking big. He says it's full of skeletons and too risky for newbies, but claims I'll be fine with him around. One of the girls hesitates. She admits she's scared of getting hurt, and the team slows a little. The knight laughs it off. He tells them to relax and just watch. If anything happens, he'll handle it. He kneels, opens a bag, and flashes a bunch of red potions. Says he'll treat any injuries. The red-haired girl is impressed. Those potions aren't cheap, and he has a lot. The red-haired girl gushes, clearly dazzled by the potions and the attention. The knight smirks, hinting he'll do his best if they cheer for him. The blonde watches with a flat look. She's clocked his act, but lets the redhead keep flattering him for now. The blonde notices his bag loaded with red potions and expensive gear. You can see the calculation in her eyes. She watches the redhead cozy up to him and quietly positions herself behind the group, ready to move when a fight breaks out. Close up on her smirk. Plan locked. Let him draw aggro, then slip in and clean out the loot. The blonde fakes a sweet smile, acting grateful while clinging to the knight for protection. Rena slides in close to the knight and nudges the blonde to lead, reminding her she's the scout. The blonde laughs it off and moves ahead, but her eyes harden. She's already planning to use them and dump them later. The two women start bickering, and the knight steps in, asking them not to fight. He shows his mace and explains this dungeon is for beginners with weak skeletons. He says he's prepared for the boss. He thinks about doing well to look good, then looks around and notices there aren't any skeletons nearby. They pause in a quiet corridor. It's empty, even though they expected enemies. Rena looks around, thinking it's been a while with still nothing showing up. The knight waves it off and urges them deeper, saying the front is always quiet. Inside, he's puzzled by how cleared out it feels. Rena points ahead, noticing something on the ground. A huge pile of broken bones and gear, horn skull, shield, and a heavy mace, lies smashed in the tunnel. All three stand around it, seeing it's from a giant skeleton. The passage is quiet and empty. The knight freezes, surprised to find the boss skeleton already dead. The red-haired adventurer kneels and checks the giant skull while the others look on. The knight scratches his head, realizing someone came first. The blonde frowns, annoyed at their bad luck. The blonde adventurer quietly pulls a knife, ready to strike while the knight is distracted. Heavy footsteps approach. A tall figure steps into the cavern, blocking their way. The knight whirls around, mace up, demanding to know who the newcomer is. A full-armored, purple knight steps out of the tunnel, swords in hand. The male knight points his mace at him and asks if he killed the giant skeleton. The two women watch. They notice the newcomer doesn't speak and wonder if he's a monster, maybe even a skeleton inside that armor. The knight snaps back, scoffing at the idea it's a skeleton in armor and motioning for the others to look. The purple-armored figure stands firm and declares the dungeon under his control, telling them to leave. Hearing a human voice, the knight loosens up, fakes a laugh, and decides it's smarter not to pick a fight. The knight suggests they leave. The party turns to go, but Rena isn't having it. Rena steps forward and points at the armored stranger, acting like the cave is theirs and scolding him for keeping the helmet on. She ups the demand. Hand over anything he looted from our dungeon. The armored figure watches in silence while the knight awkwardly tries to calm Rena down. The blonde girl turns on the charm, eyes sparkling, and asks the knight to back her up and put the purple-armored stranger in his place. The knight glances over, sweating a little. He's unsure and clearly nervous. Trying to act tough, the knight points at the purple figure and shouts about manners, demanding he remove his helmet before talking. The blonde smiles, pleased he took her side. The armored stranger nods and reaches for his helmet, agreeing to remove it. Behind him, the blonde adventurer smirks, already plotting to use the knight and steal his loot after a fight. As the helmet starts coming off, the women gasp and the knight jerks in shock. Something unexpected is revealed. The blonde adventurer freezes and gasps, eyes wide. The armored figure takes off the helmet. Underneath is a bear skull. It's an armored skeleton. The party steps back, stunned. They finally accept it isn't a man at all, but a skeleton guarding the dungeon. The armored figure removes his helmet. He's a talking skeleton. He asks them to leave so he can get back to whatever he's doing. The red-haired adventurer senses danger and tries to pull the team back. The knight ignores her and laughs it off. The knight decides to fight anyway. He loosens up with quick warm-up moves, spinning his mace and stepping forward to engage. The skeleton knight stands calmly, helmet in hand, telling them to back off. The bulky Sir Knight charges in, raising his mace with a wild grin. He thinks this is his moment to look cool and impress the women as he winds up for a big swing. The knight shows off a flail that starts glowing with a holy shine, proud of his anti-skeleton weapon. The armored skeleton tilts his head slightly, as if giving a last warning. The knight charges and brings the flail down with all his strength, but the skeleton steps in and raises his shoulder to meet the blow. The knight's heavy swing lands, but the skeleton slips in close. The mace is smothered against its shoulder. The blow dies there. Black glove hands snap up. The skeleton catches the chain mid-air and twists, locking the weapon tight. With the flail neutralized, the skeleton steps in and slides its spear across the knight's waist, pinning him at full reach, balance broken. The skeleton knight leans in, calm but firm, telling them to go. He's clearly not interested in a fight. The blonde adventurer freezes, staring at him in surprise. Her anger slips. She looks more curious than hostile now. The Sir Knight is face down on the cave floor, groaning. The red-haired woman rushes toward him while the armored skeleton watches from a short distance. Close up, the knight lifts his head a little, sweating and dazed, barely able to speak. The skeleton tilts his skull, studying the fallen man with a calm as if deciding what to do next. The red-haired woman freezes, clearly scared. Panel 2. She turns away and runs down the tunnel. She slows and glances back, thinking. She pulls out a dagger and grips it, deciding what to do. A red silhouetted figure is pierced through the torso. Blood and fragments burst outward. The blonde adventurer slows and stares, shocked, while the armored skeleton turns its head toward her. The skeleton calmly raises its sword into a ready stance, blade angled forward, preparing to strike. The blonde thief faces the armored skeleton, judging the situation. She suddenly drops to her knees and begs for mercy. The armored skeleton pauses, taken aback by the plea. The blonde girl introduces herself as Rena from the TNT Guild and offers assassination, theft, and information services. The armored skeleton connects the dots and states she aimed for the red-haired woman on purpose. The red-haired woman lies on the ground with a knife in her back. Rena claims she handled a problem for him and asks him to treat it as a favor. The skeleton knight pauses, realizing he hadn't meant to kill the red-haired woman. He questions the blonde about why she struck her own teammate. The blonde casually explains herself, acting unfazed. She makes it clear the red-haired woman wasn't her ally. The skeleton knight understands. She lured the red-haired woman here to eliminate her from the start. The situation turns from party squabble to a planned betrayal. The skeleton knight glances at the red-haired woman lying on the ground and pieces together that these two came from a thieves' guild. He turns to the crouching blonde and basically offers a deal. Stop bothering him, take what she needs, and leave alive. She perks. He shuts it down, says he doesn't need help, and waves her off, urging her to get out of the dungeon quickly. The skeleton knight pauses. He asks if the girl also trades in information. Rena nods quickly and says she does. She offers to answer anything. The skeleton knight thinks for a beat, then asks about a group, the Necron Society. Rena thinks for a moment and says she knows a bit about the Necron Society. The skeleton tells her to share it, and Rena stops him, adding there's one condition. The skeleton asks what the condition is. The skeleton knight presses a sword to Rena's throat, shutting down her condition. He keeps the blade there while she kneels. She tries to explain that only her guild can access the info. She points out that, looking like a skeleton, he can't just walk into a guild to buy it. The skeleton knight pauses and thinks it through. If he kills her, he won't get the information he needs. He agrees to hear terms. She asks to become his ally in exchange for the info. A glowing system screen appears in front of him, notifying an ally request, and he looks surprised. A blue quest window appears in front of the skeleton, outlining a new scenario tied to Rina. He studies the window, thinking that information is what he lacks most right now. Rina, cautious, checks if he's paying attention as he turns toward her. Rina pitches herself as an ally who can provide info and help with training. The skeleton knight grabs Rina by the neck, cutting her off. He lifts her one-handed and calls out her actions, using and killing her teammate for personal gain. The skeleton knight refuses the ally idea, saying he doesn't want a knife in his neck later. Rina, still held by the throat, forces a laugh and tries to talk her way out. She says she's closer to his kind than to the other humans, hinting she's just as ruthless. He drops her to the ground. He walks up while she catches her breath, asking what she meant. She explains people only value her body, not who she is, and questions calling them fellow humans. Rina tells the skeleton knight that people only see him as a monster to crush, just like how people judge her. He looks down, then asks if she means they're in the same situation. Rina begins sharing what she knows, starting with the name, the Necron Society. Rina explains the Necron Society, a secret syndicate involved in drugs, contract killing, human trafficking, anything for profit. It's protected by powerful nobles, so it's huge. She adds that no one knows the boss or the headquarters. She can't share more. Only higher-ranked guild members have that level of info. Pointing to the beaten knight, she makes a proposal. Have Sir Knight hunt wicked humans the same way humans hunt monsters. Rina pitches a deal. She'll lure her assassination targets into this dungeon so the knight can defeat them and gain experience. She explains the exchange. Her rank in the guild will rise, and in return she'll share the information he wants. It's framed as a win-win. The skeleton knight pauses, thinking through her proposal. The skeleton knight pauses and asks for clear confirmation about her offer. The blonde girl looks down for a moment, then commits to helping, even if it means killing other humans. She looks up with a calm smile and states plainly that she hates humans. The skeleton knight considers everything and gives a short nod. A simple text bubble appears, confirming the decision. The deal is accepted. A red screen warns. 3 intruders entered the dungeon. The skeleton knight dashes in and cuts one intruder down with a single swing. He settles into a ready stance, sword up, prepared for the others. Hooded archer draws his bow, aiming straight ahead in the cave. He's struck mid-draw and freezes, losing control. The archer drops to the ground with a blade in his back. Farther down the tunnel, Rina stands with her arm extended, the throw clearly hers. Rina uses a pull skill on the archer. A second bandit strikes Rina from the side. A third bandit pins Rina with a boot and raises his sword. The red-haired man rushes Rina and lifts his sword to strike. His swing is stopped midair by an outside hit. He freezes, shocked. The sword flies from his hand and sticks in the ground beside Rina as she falls back, unharmed. The armored skeleton finishes off the intruders and stands there with his sword. The fight's done, and he's back in control of the dungeon. Rina comes over right after. She plays it cool, keeping their new working together plan on track. A system screen pops up. He levels up, his dungeon affinity climbs to 19.5%, and his swordsmanship reaches level 4. They look over the hall. Rina says it's big because she lured many intruders in. The skeleton knight turns, about to respond. Rina cuts him off, telling him not to lecture her about fellow humans. In the cave, Rina explains her plan. Contracts target criminals, and bribe-protected scum slip past guards. She lists their crimes and insists they all deserve payback. The skeleton knight kneels at the loot cloth and notices 2 books among the items. The skeleton knight picks up a worn book titled The Unsightly Magician. He flips through the pages, scanning quick notes about magicians and their privileges. He shuts the book, thinking it reads like the author holds a grudge against magicians, then sets it aside. The skeleton knight checks the book's cover and reads the name Kevin Ashton. A system window appears beside him. The window displays, Your wisdom rose by 1. The skeleton knight drops to the ground and starts digging through the scattered loot and books. Rina steps closer, watching in confusion. He settles cross-legged with one book in hand and gathers the rest around him. He sorts through the pile of books and finds only 2 that increase his stat. He checks the covers and notes both are written by Kevin Ashton, so he links the stat gain to that author. He concludes wisdom can be raised by reading and considers using books, especially Kevin Ashton's, to keep boosting it. Rina edges in beside him while he reads. She moves even closer. He shifts away, keeping space. She offers to go check the nearby village for more books. He lets her handle it and asks for titles by Kevin Ashton or any books that boost stats or skills. She nods and gets ready to leave quietly. The skeleton knight asks Rina for nearby dungeon options. Rina thinks for a moment and prepares to answer. Rina lists 4 within a week's travel. E-Class, Arid Underground Cemetery. D-Class, Ruins of Spider's Vault. C-Class, Twisted Misty Zone. C-Class, Dirty Jungle. Rina stretches and yawns. He asks if a week's travel means on foot. She says yes. He thinks through the plan. This cave is F-Class, so the next target should be an E-Class dungeon. He adds one more task for Rina. On her next trip to the village, handle an errand he has in mind. Rina dozes off and leans against him. He notices she's worn out from the village runs and lets her sleep. He carefully adjusts, grabs his sword, and resumes quiet drills while keeping watch. He stops training and realizes he's more tired than he thought. His vision narrows. He decides to put practice on hold and drifts towards sleep. A system screen appears. 182 nights spent in the dungeon. Dungeon affinity passes 20%. Note that he's succumbing to human nature, warning that the dungeon is trying to devour him. He wakes up confused, realizing he somehow fell asleep in the dungeon. A horned woman leans in and casually asks if his rest was good. He notices he's lying across her lap, his bones sprawled out as she holds his skull in place. He jolts upright in bones-only form. The succubus is seated on the mat, watching. She remarks that she may have woken him from a deep sleep. He waves a hand, hurriedly denying it, and tries to explain. He notices a dark mark on his bone and staggers, trying to steady himself. He realizes his armor is gone and stands there as a bare skeleton, confused. The succubus steps in, wraps him in a reassuring hug, and calms him down. The succubus takes the skeleton knight's hand and leads him deeper into the dungeon, as if inviting him to stay with her. Footsteps echo in the corridor, approaching. The skeleton knight, now back in armor, walks forward alone into the tunnel, leaving the scene behind. Rina wakes up on the cave floor. She sits up and calls out for the skeleton knight. The cave around her is empty. She looks around and realizes he's gone, leaving her alone in the dungeon. Rina wakes up, looks around the cave, and calls out for the knight. A hand gently pats the skeleton knight's head. The succubus sits on a rock with the skeleton knight resting on her lap while she reads a book beside him. She has a skull on her lap and gently pats it. He thinks the whole thing might have been a dream. His hand moves a little while he admits it felt too real to be just a dream. He lets it go, deciding it doesn't matter, and settles down. The succubus pauses mid-reading. The skeleton thinks it's enough that she's safe. She closes the book and asks if the story is boring. The skeleton waves his hands and says it isn't boring, just something else on his mind. The skeleton sits up. The succubus asks if they should continue discussing his dream. She recaps the point he reached and asks what the girl named Rina was like. Cut to the cave entrance in daylight. Rina appears outside, arms up, marking the start of his story about her. Rina wakes up outside the cave and stretches her arms. She checks around the cave entrance, doesn't see the knight, and starts walking toward the tunnel. She hears movement behind her and turns her head. A squad forms up at a command call. Boots snap to attention. The captain addresses the group, saying this isn't a routine dungeon job. He explains, the place, Spectre's charnel house, is meant for beginners, but for 6 months many adventurers and villagers who headed there have vanished. He rallies the team for a serious investigation and subjugation. The captain continues the briefing, stressing this raid is under the Blue Lion Templars. Rina listens from the tree lean. Rina realizes the situation is bad and decides she needs to act fast. Back in the dungeon, the skeleton knight acknowledges the update while sitting with the succubus, taking in the news. The succubus glances at the skeleton while commenting about the girl's bold move. The skeleton considers her behavior. The succubus waits for his answer. The succubus leans in and challenges his choice, asking if he'll abandon the girl. A dark memory flashes. Ominous words hang in the void. The skeleton jolts, sensing something wrong. A red system alert appears. The dungeon detects a single intruder. Close on the skull. He narrows his focus, scanning the tunnels and preparing to move. Flashbacks hit him. Knight's raiding. The succubus suffering his own defeat. Memories flicker one after another. He clenches with resolve, blaming the knights. The hesitation is gone. He readies his sword and staff together, vowing to protect her this time and moving to confront the intruder. Rina spots the knight sitting on a ledge and runs toward him. She reaches him and urges him to move. No time to sit around. The knight locks in, eyes gleaming. He gets the message. Time to pack up and leave. Rina runs in and warns that soldiers are right outside the cave. The skeleton knight tightens his grip on the sword and says he'll protect her. Rina pauses, hands half raised, asking what's going on as he prepares to move. He tightens his grip on the sword and draws it. He dashes forward and swings, the blade grazing Rina as she staggers back. He keeps advancing with the sword ready. Rina retreats, confused, asking why he's attacking. Rina asks if she offended him and clocks that something's wrong with the knight. An arrow whistles through the cave. The arrow slams into the ground right by Rina's foot. Scouts pop up on the cliff edges and signal. They've spotted the skeleton knight and the witch. Rina clicks her tongue, realizing the scouts already alerted the main force. She glances back. Sir Knight stand there swaying, sword out. She notes he isn't thinking straight right now. A sharp blast rips through the tunnel. Rina throws up her arms and steadies herself. She shouts to the skeleton knight, calling his name. He turns to her and pauses, her plea to come to your senses, cutting through the chaos. The succubus steps in behind him. He stops what he's doing and looks back. He tells her a raid is coming. Soldiers are already on their way into the dungeon. He grabs his sword and moves to shield her, saying he'll stop them and she should stay back. The succubus questions him. A red-haired woman materializes and confronts him about abandoning her. The skeleton freezes, recognizing her and stammering her name. He recognizes the red-haired woman, Rubia, and freezes. Rubia walks up. He loses balance, drops to a knee, sword scraping the floor. She stops over him and demands an answer about his promise to protect her. He's speechless, hands tightening on the hilt. Succubus stands beside him while Rubia confronts from the front. He blurts an excuse. Succubus cuts in, asking why he failed to protect them. She leans in at his ear and gives the hard truth. He's weak. The word lands like a hit. He's on the ground, sword slack. Rubia and the succubus face him for both sides. He stammers, unable to answer. The red-haired woman and the succubus gang up on him, both blaming him for failing to protect them. Their words pile on like knives. The skeleton knight mentally collapses. In his head, he's drowning in guilt, repeating that he was too weak. Cut outside the dungeon. A Templar scout reaches his mounted commander and calls out, reporting what he's found. A soldier rushes in and reports. The scouts have found the targets. The silver-haired commander takes the news in, steady and calm. He's about to move the unit. The skeleton drifts underwater, bubbles rising around him. He steadies himself in the depths and decides he has to get stronger. Cut back to the cave. A squad lines up their crossbows and gives the order to fire. Arrows rain down. Rina ducks behind a rock and takes cover. She checks the knight. He's still dazed and not responding. Rina grabs a rope, deciding to handle it herself. The squad rushes in, shouting to capture her and force them into a corner. She kicks a lit bomb into their path. It rolls to a stop right between their boots. The soldiers realize it's about to blow and scramble to back away. The blast goes off. She yanks the rope and drags the armored skeleton away from the explosion. The skeleton staggers, rattled by the shockwave, but stays upright. She shifts plans on the fly, draw the soldiers deeper, then pop a smoke bomb to slip out. An arrow slices past and grazes Rina's cheek. She flinches but stays on her feet. Knight steps forward from the shadows, calling out her tricks while closing the distance. He announces her arrest for the adventurer killings and promises a trial, while Rina clutches her bleeding arm and glares back. The skeleton knight steps between Rina and the soldiers, sword coming up as a shield. She freezes, unsure why he's defending her. The squad leader clocks the scene and decides the rumor was right. There's necromancy at play. He signals the marksman. Crossbows swing up and take aim at the skeleton first. The order is clear: drop the knight before going for the girl. Rina freezes as the soldiers take aim, and she realizes the danger closing in. The skeleton knight stands between her and the threat, sword lowered, body tense, mind slipping. Inside his head, it's like sinking deep underwater. Memories blur, identity frays, and he wonders if he's already dead while trying to hold on to his promise to protect her. He sinks through the blue, telling himself this must be the afterlife. Why else would he have met Rubia and the succubus again? He lets go a little, thinking it's enough that he got to see them one last time as his body drifts lower. Silence. He stares upward in the water, hovering on the edge of fading out. He drifts in the blue void, realizes the thought hitting him, did I die? He rejects it. If he died, he'd revive here. Calls it an illusion and forces himself to snap out of it. He steadies his will, sets a clear goal, grow stronger, and be ready to protect his mistress when their paths cross 20 years from now. Under the afterlife, he steals himself, a skeleton with a purpose, eyes burning with resolve to protect. Back in the cave, a warm drip hits his skull. Blood trails down his cheekbone. He jerks, awareness snapping back. Rina's over him, wounded and bleeding, still shielding his body. He realizes she took the hit meant for him, and that shock turns into raw determination. Rina smiles through blood, teasing him like he overslept. She throws herself into his arms, 3 arrows buried in her back. He catches her, stunned, realizing she took the hit meant for him. Rina smiles through the blood and cracks a joke, basically saying, save the thank you speech for later. First we survive. The knights bicker. The captain explodes at his men for shooting, reminding them the order was to capture the witch alive. One soldier gulps and points. Something's wrong. The captain turns, tense, ready for bad news. He hooks an arm around Rina's shoulders and steadies her. The arrows in her back shake, but she forces herself upright. Together, they face the squad. The captain steps out front, confident, signaling his men to close in. Steel and crossbows rise. They think it's over. Rina wipes the blood from her lip and smirks. Eyes narrow. Posture straightens. She's not surrendering. She's baiting them. The captain freezes, sweat beading. Something the girl said doesn't add up, and he finally senses danger. A spark flares at his boot. The fuse he never noticed is already lit and hissing on a small orb. His eyes shoot wide. Pure oh no realization. Too late to move before it blows. The knights freeze. A lit fuse snakes across the floor toward a mound of barrels marked with skulls. Realization hits. It's a trap. Rina, blood on her lip, gives a cocky smirk. She's the one who armed it, and she's not backing down. Violet blast erupts down the tunnel. The shockwave roars out, and the knights scramble, stumbling as the explosion swallows the passage behind them. The cave erupts in violet gas. Knights stumble, hacking and clawing at their eyes as the poison cloud rolls over them. Panel. Rina's barely standing, arms slung over the skeleton's shoulder. She forces a grin through the pain, basically asking him to haul her out while she buys them time. Their commander realizes too late what the purple haze is. He clamps a hand over his mouth and nose, eyes watering as the gas closes in. Purple gas fills the tunnel. Knights cough and stumble. The The skeleton props up the bleeding girl and starts moving, using the mist as cover while the soldiers regroup. He lowers his stance and bursts forward with her over his shoulder. Two knights charge to cut him off, blades raised. Without breaking stride, he swings in a wide arc. The slash tears through the purple haze and sends the front line flying, carving a path ahead. He hoists Rina onto his back and bolts through the purple haze, arrows still jutting from her. Every step is a promise to keep her alive. He scolds her while sprinting, frustrated she didn't run. Underneath the anger is fear. He almost lost her. Rina, pale and bleeding, manages a tired smile. She reminds him they're allies. If he's fighting, she's staying right beside him. He's sprinting with Rina on his back, pushing through the poison haze as arrows clatter behind them. They burst out of the cave mouth in a daylight, purple smoke trailing like a bad omen. He stops, scans a tree line. No patrols in sight. For the first time since the ambush, he exhales, safe for the moment. Rina collapses outside the cave. The skeleton kneels and snaps the arrow shafts so they don't tear more flesh, planning to treat her properly once they're safe. A Templar steps from the trees, scoffing. He says the high-rank necromancer. Rumors were exaggerated, clearly underestimating the skeleton. The skeleton moves first, hips turn, blade whips out. A clean, explosive slash fired straight at the Templar's opening. A polished chest plate fills the frame. The crest and rivets catch the light. Someone important has arrived. The Blue Lion Templar captain steps forward, sword already leveled. Calm face, steady stance. He's here to take control of the fight, and he's aiming straight at our skeleton knight.